or shift in hormones. So that's one type. The other type is sun damage. And this is the most common, and this is the most common that we see with folks who are hopping on to consultations with me, one-on-one consultations with me, group consultations, is we're seeing the result of sun exposure from years ago. And sometimes it's more recent, sometimes it's further away, but oftentimes those are on the cheeks and they can come on either side. They can be on the forehead, they can be on the nose, they can really show up anywhere, but those tend to show up where the sun hits us the most. So the left side of the face is really common for us to see, you know, different forms of sun damage or sunspots on the face because a lot of us drive, showing up on the forehead, showing up on the jaw, but the left side is really common. So sun damage is one. The third reason that you might have dark spots or persistent dark spots would just be outright damage to the skin. So this could be something like surgery, or it's really common if you have had a carcinoma of some form, basal cell, you know, or different forms of precancerous or cancerous lesions on the face, that this damage, I point to the nose. My mother's had several removed on her nose. This damage and the cutting into the tissue to remove these can leave the skin with a darkened area, and that is a result of the damage that is happening in the skin. So these are the three kind of different drivers of sunspots, dark spots, discoloration that show up on the skin. And this can be important when you're considering what ingredients are going to be most supportive for you and for fading these particular forms of dark spots. So all of them can work for, you know, all of these, but some are going to be a little bit more ideal. So let me talk about the three kind of categories of brighteners that we see with the skin. Now, the first category are what are called tyrosinase inhibitors, which you've heard me say this before. You've heard me say this, heard me talk about this. The tyrosinase inhibitors are ingredients that actively seek out, they absorb into the skin, and then they seek out areas where the melanin is really active. And then they accumulate on these and then help to tell that to go back to sleep. We see tyrosinase inhibitors in the form of uva ursi and licorice root. Products that you're going to see the tyrosinase inhibitors in, we've got a couple in this particular serum. This is the citrus stem cell serum. We've also got a couple in the wild fruit serum. So these two serums are particularly potent for brightening, especially targeting and then fading dark spots. We also have some tyrosinase inhibitors in our Radiant C mask and polish. And is this it? Yeah, our illuminating pearl mask. So specifically, if you have sun damage or if you have dark spots that are a result of all their forms of damage, tyrosinase inhibitors are going to be particularly important. They do take a little bit of time and they really require consistency. So they really require that you are using them pretty diligently, morning and evening, probably for a minimum of 4-ish weeks before you start to see those fade. And the reason that takes a little bit of turnaround time is because as they're building up and as they're kind of accumulating on these darkened areas, we don't necessarily see that change in the skin until these have made their way. So this lower layer has made its way to the surface of the skin to become visible skin. So it is something that, yeah, it takes a little bit of consistency. And I always like to kind of offer that, to have that conversation, because I have worked with folks who will use something like the citrus stem cell serum for a week or 2 weeks, and then they feel really disappointed that they're not seeing the skin just totally change or brighten overnight. And that is, yeah, that's par for the course. That's part of what we're doing here with these particular products. So Yeah, the tyrosinase inhibitors are one. Now, another form of brightener that is really, really key for all three of these. So whether it is the hormonal, whether it is the damage form of dark spots, is a exfoliants, specifically AHAs, and even more specifically lactic acid. And we have lactic acid in two of our products. And again, if you've kind of been on other calls with us, we have talked about a lot of these. The first one is this one. This is the Botanical Lactic Toner. I cannot sing the praises of this enough. If you are working on fading dark spots, having this in your routine is so important. This uses a fairly lower percentage of lactic acid, which makes it more available for a broader kind of sweep of skin types. So even if you are dry and even if you are sensitive, dark spots can still be addressed with this exfoliant. It is to be used in the evening only. So typically we cleanse the skin, tone with the Botanical Lactic Toner, and then we'll apply something like the wild fruit, something like the citrus stem, and continue with our routine. But because of the lactic in this, we don't want you to apply this and then expose your skin directly to the sun. It is, yeah, it increases the sensitivity to the sun, which we'll come back to that. But the other one that we have that has a strong lactic component to it is the resurfacing facial exfoliant. So the resurfacing facial exfoliant is a higher percentage of lactic acid. This is one of my absolute favorites to really see changes quickly in the skin. But it is a more intense product, right? With this lactic acid, this is one that is actively exfoliating, that you wear kind of like a mask. So it's a gel consistency. I'll show you what she looks like. Maybe. There we go. So this is what it looks like. And it's a thin gel consistency. There's no texture to it, but as it sits on the skin, so if I were to leave this on the back of my hand, even just on the back of the hand, there's a little bit of activity with it because of that higher percentage of the lactic in it. Now, I'm not going to leave this on super long. I'm not trying to exfoliate the backs of my hands. You can if you've got sun damage on the backs of the hands. Um, but I wanted to just show you the consistency. So that's one that we typically suggest around once a week to every 10 days. It's far less frequent as something like a serum or the lactic toner. So this is the resurfacing facial exfoliant. It has a lactic component to it. Now, see, your question here, how often do you use the Radiant C? The Radiant C is the product that I mentioned. This has uva ursi. This also has other brighteners in it. They're very vitamin C rich, which I haven't come to the vitamin C yet, but vitamin C essentially is a tone evener. Vitamin C is also very supportive if you have active irritation in the skin that's also attributing to dark spots or sunspots. So if you have something like um, yeah, just regular sensitivity, or you have breakouts that are causing kind of dark spots left behind. If there's active irritation that's really helping it be hard for the skin to calm down, vitamin C's can be really helpful. But overall, just evening out the tone of the skin, this is particularly supportive for sun damage. This is particularly supportive for hormonal dark spots. Vitamin C helps to even out the tone, even out the texture, even out the consistency. The Radiant C, this is why we call it Radiant C, is because it does have a strong vitamin C component. And we keep it in a powdered form. I used to have a jar on my desk, but I have children, and so the jar's disappeared. But I'll shake a little bit into the palm of my hand so you can kind of see what it looks like. So it's this loose, dry powder that you typically would mix with water, or you could mix it with, I've mixed it with pearl mask before. I've mixed it with toning mist before, really just liquid, but most commonly water. And the reason that we have it in the powdered form is because when this vitamin C, when these herbs and florals, so acerola cherry, we've also got cacao plum, which is super vitamin C rich. There's amla berry, there's uva ursi. All of these are super, super potent, but when they hit water, they activate. And vitamin C, most vitamin C on the market, when you're shopping for vitamin C's and you find one, they aren't shelf stable, so they've already activated. And then when you go to put them on, they're either on the other side and they're not as potent, or they're actively rancid. So we use ours in this floral form. They are in a powdered form. So when they hit the liquid, you get this activation. But let me land the plane here. Let me answer your question. How often do you use it? This is one that you could use it every day. My skin type is on the dry, kind of combo sensitive side. So I only do this one maybe 2 or 3 times a day, and I mix it into my cleanser. Excuse me, 2 or 3 times a week. That'd be so much to do it 2 or 3 times a day. But I do a pump or two of the aloe herb cleanser, and then I shake a little bit of this into it, and do that in the morning when I cleanse. But you could use it on its own. This is a product that kind of becomes like an apothecary tool. Like you really get to develop a relationship with when and how you use it. You can use it as a mask. There is a little bit of clay in here, so it's amazing for firming, also amazing for detoxing. But these two, so the illuminating pearl and the radiant sea, pair really, really well together. This is a really common combo, especially if you are wanting to just look extra radiant and extra glowy. Doing these two back to back or mixed together is a really nice combo. And that can attribute to how often you do it. So if knew I was going to do, the mask, illuminating pearl mask, radiant sea combo, I might do it on a Monday in the cleanser, maybe a Wednesday mixed into the mask, and then a Friday or Saturday into the cleanser again. And that would work for me. But I've worked with customers who have pretty thick or pretty, I guess, more combo skin who use this one every day in their cleanser. So I offer that to just say that there's a range of usage, but most commonly it's going to probably fall around 3 times a week. Mary, what would you put over the resurfacing facial exfoliant? Okay, this is a really good question. So the resurfacing facial exfoliant it's an exfoliant, but we wear it like a mask. So we cleanse the skin. If you are familiar with the product, you can exfoliate with something like the Radiant C. You can exfoliate with something like the Kaolin Micro exfoliant before. And then we apply a nice thin layer of the resurfacing, and then it stays on the skin for around 10 minutes. So then you remove it. Could you leave it on longer than 10 minutes? Sure, but the peak of the activity is going to kind of peak and dissipate around the 10-minute mark. You still have amazing skin benefits like hyaluronic acid and blue tansy and cucumber distillate happening, but there's not a ton of benefit to leaving it on a lot past the 10-minute mark. So if you've tried it overnight and like it, then I won't stop you, but typically we suggest that it's worn like a mask and then it gets removed. Now, could you do the lactic toner before? And so do like a layer of the lactic toner and a layer of the resurfacing? In theory, yes. I will say I've never tried it. It feels like that might be a lot of lactic kind of stacked back to back. But if you've tried both of them separately, then you could certainly try it together. Just note that you might leave it on a shorter amount of time. You might kind of be prepared to not have like a beach day the day after. You don't want a ton of sun exposure the day after. So in theory, yes, but I haven't experimented with that. I'm curious now. Um, Aris, for vitamin C for dark spots, which is better, Brighten or the Radiant C mask? Or should both be used? So this is a good kind of pivot point. Let me put a pin in this question because one of the other ingredients that I've talked about a little bit is vitamin C. So we talked about tyrosinase inhibitors. We talked about exfoliants. Exfoliants are really helpful for sun damage, period. They're really, really helpful for lifting. They're kind of breaking up and lifting pigmentation from the face. And then we've got Brighten, or excuse me, vitamin C. Brighten is a form of vitamin C. And vitamin C is an overall tone evener. So it works to balance out the tone. It is amazing for hormonal dark spots. It's also amazing for post sun damage dark spots. So depending on what you're working with, you might prioritize one ingredient more than the other. But so the Brighton that Iris is referring to here is this, and this is a concentrated vitamin C. Brighton is a booster. So Brighton is designed to be mixed into something else. Generally, most customers, myself included, don't find this to be comfortable applied directly to the skin. Typically, what happens is it can be just a little bit too intense because this product, Brighten, all that's happening in it is a shelf-stable vitamin C. It's a tetrahexyl desylscorbate, which is one of the only ones that stay shelf-stable, which means that when you get it, it's still active. There's a little bit of sea buckthorn which is an antioxidant support for the integration of vitamin C. And then there's some jojoba, which keeps it all suspended and kind of playing nicely together. Otherwise, nothing else going on in it. There might be aspen bark, but if there is, it's a very small amount. So it's a very, very simple product. And I offer all of that just to share the info that if you put it directly on the skin, usually it's not comfy. Every time I've tried, which yes, I have tried more than once because I get the temptation. It feels like it would feel like more potent. It would change the skin faster. I get a huge rash every single time. So it's a booster, which means we mix it into something else. So what that looks like is you can take your preferred serum. I like wild fruit, but you could do any of them. I do a pump or two of that into the palm of my hand, and then I take my Brighten. I do a couple drops of Brighten, mix it, and then I dot my cheeks, my forehead, my chin, whatever's left, press into my neck, and then come in and blend. I've also been using the Brighten in the Radiant C lately. This is a conversation we had, or excuse me, the Radiant Skin Silk. This is a body lotion. So just kind of experimenting with how this feels with kind of uneven toner texture on the body. Radiant Skin Silk is a great body lotion for crepey skin, for textured skin in general, but adding the Brighten to it, it's just kind of boosts, if you've got dark spots on the body or on the hands, boosts the experience of that. So it can be mixed into that. You can also mix it into your moisturizer. So if you wear oil, you can mix it into your oil or your cream, just as long as it's being mixed into something else. So that is Brighten. And this question here, should you use the Brighten or the Radiant C? So they do really different things in the routine. So in an ideal scenario, when you're kind of, taking the most I was gonna use the word aggressive, but I feel like the connotation is that it's like so intense. But the most direct route of really addressing fading dark spots, you would use both. I think I would say a higher priority would be Brighten to really actively be fading dark spots and evening out the tone. But both of them are going to be doing different things in the skin and kind of holding different like positions as far as what they're doing. So um but yeah, that's my how I'd answer that. Can the Brighten be with another product or can be left on all day? So it does stay on. Yeah, so when I use it, I mix it into the serum. I cleanse my skin like normal. I mist my skin, whichever toning mist works for you. And then I take my wild fruit serum. I take my Brighten, mix it together, and then apply them with that serum step. So it doesn't get wiped off after, it stays on the skin. I tend to like it with the serum because it's so close to the skin. It is right there, and then it goes right into the skin. But you can wear it with a mask. You can wear it with a cream, as long as it's mixed into something else. Tracy, is corn or cornstarch in any of the products? So definitely no cornstarch. Corn, we don't have corn directly. We might, I'm thinking off the top of my head here, have a vegetable derived, well, we do have a vegetable derived glycerin, and I don't know off the top of my head if corn is in the vegetable blend. So that might be a question that I might have you reach out to Alexandra and customer support. I'm going to put our customer support email in here because she will know for sure. You also could search the FAQs on the support page. A lot of times we keep that pretty current with like ingredient questions like that, but there's no cornstarch. There isn't going to be any cornstarch in any of the products. So Great question. So another ingredient that if you've done these calls with me, I've really emphasized a lot is sunscreen. And sunscreen itself is not an active brightener. So I think that's why it gets overlooked a lot of the time when we're really building routines to brighten the skin. But sunscreen itself is very, very key in maintaining the brightening that's happening and keeping it from darkening. This is particularly true with sun damage and hormonal dark spots. These two. It can be exacerbated, of course, with other forms of damage, but the sun damage sunspots and the hormonal sunspots, it does not take much sun exposure to see those darken. Now we have our Sun Love, it looks like this, which is an amazing daily sunscreen. I love, love, love this. It shears out. It's got a zinc oxide mineral sun block. So this actually blocks UV. But it can show up in a lot of different forms. You could do a hat. You could have, last week we were talking about UPF fabric. UPF is it's regulated differently than SPF. Um, that's another thing that can be used to prevent sun damage. We also have our Salt and Blue. So I'm actually wearing a Salt and Blue t-shirt today. These are new and you may see these show up on the site soon. But Salt and Blue is a company that Anne Marie Skincare has launched that's specific to sun care, sun products. And this is our body sunscreen that I am obsessed, obsessed, obsessed with. So the Salt and Blue is pretty awesome to have on hand. Great to have just, I like it in my purse for sun protection. Victoria, do you apply over your other products or alone on the face? So I do, I guess, both. I sunscreen is one of those steps that I don't miss. So let's say I have a morning where I've woken up and I don't really have time for a full routine. I will still mist my skin and put my Sun Love on. And that happens every morning that I'm going to be going outside. Now, do I get direct UV exposure? Yes. Do we encourage direct UV exposure? Yes, but very intentionally. And I am pretty mindful to protect my face from it most of the time, for better or worse. So I put that on even if that's just what I'm wearing. But if you're doing your full routine, you're going to cleanse, you're going to tone, you're going to use your serum. If you boost it, you're going to boost it, then your moisturizer, and then sunscreen is the last step in your skincare routine before you apply makeup. So if you're a makeup wearer, you can, of course, put the makeup on over, but you still want to make sure that you are putting your sunscreen on anytime you've got prolonged. And prolonged is not super long. Prolonged is like, for my fair kind of Irish French skin type, it's like 10, 15 minutes. And then if I have not protected my skin, which it happens, I really start to see the sunspots that I've been working on fading reactivate. It could be such a benign thing, like going to a coffee shop and sitting outside and not even thinking about it. Like that sun exposure can exacerbate the sun damage there. Oh yeah, Karen, the Sun Love, wish it took less time to put on. What I'm curious, just for my own interest, what do you feel like takes a long time? Squeezing it out of the tube? Is that what feels like it takes a long time? Salt and Blue is a pretty recent launch, and so we are very open to feedback, and we're kind of exploring other variations of packaging if the tubing is not working for us. The body size. Oh yeah, yeah. It takes time to apply it all over to your body. That is true. But yeah, sunscreen is a pretty key ingredient. So let's kind of recap from the top, like a lot of these ingredients. So when we're working on fading sunspots, we're looking at tyrosinase inhibitors. We're looking at exfoliants, so typically lactic acid. We also have a retinol alternative that I didn't even get into. We've got it as part of our activated night serum, which is another form of exfoliant that's very, very helpful in a similar way to lactic acid. So breaking up pigmentation, helping this to kind of move up and off of the skin. It's amazing for a lot of other things too, refining the skin, refining large pores, helping with fine lines increasing, all of it. But the retinol alternative is super, super helpful. So that the exfoliants are really helpful, and vitamin C. So tyrosinase inhibitor, exfoliants like retinol alternative, and lactic and vitamin C, and then sunscreen. So these are four particular ingredients that can work with our different types of dark spots that show up. Okay, I see a couple more questions here. Hyaluronic acid, does this play into dark spot treatment and how and when would you use it? This is a really good question, and I'm glad that you asked it. So hyaluronic acid, although it is called an acid, is actually a humectant, which means that it is supporting the hydration of the skin. There is no exfoliation that happens with hyaluronic acid. We have hyaluronic acid in a lot of our products because what hyaluronic acid does is it seeks moisture out in its environment and then it pulls it to itself so it can expand. So hyaluronic acid is particularly supportive for plumping. It's great for fine lines. It's great for creasing. Can be great support for loss of volume, all of those things, but it's not actively doing anything directly with dark spots. Now, it can be helpful in making the skin look more youthful in general. So if you've got a lot of dark spots on the forehead in conjunction with fine lines, hyaluronic acid can help plump up the fine lines. So sometimes the dark spots don't look as noticeable or as bad, but hyaluronic acid itself is not doing anything with dark spots. It is still something that I recommend for everybody, and how and when you use is going to depend on the form that you're using it. Almost, no, all of our serums, every single one of our serums has hyaluronic acid, except for the probiotic serum, which just uses a different form of a humectant. But all of the others have hyaluronic acid, so getting them in the serum form can be really helpful. It is also in the lactic toner. So there's a little bit of hyaluronic acid, which pairs really nicely with the lactic acid. You get this kind of smoothing and refining with the lactic, and then this plumping with the hyaluronic acid. And then we've got a pure form of hyaluronic acid. So this is called Hydrate. Hydrate is another booster. So it is a pure, it's hyaluronic acid, peptides, and then aspen bark are in this product. So super, super simple, an amazing way to plump up the skin. But like the Brighten, you mix it into something else. So you put it with your serum, you put it with your moisturizer, and then you apply it to the skin. And just for your information, we do have our boosters available in a set of three. They're called concentrated boosting elixirs. We've got our Hydrate, we've got our Brighten, and the Revitalize is a concentrated version of the retinol alternative. So for sunspots and dark spots, this set can be really, really supportive. But that's if you're looking, if you're in the market for those, just want to let you know that we've got a set that they all come together. So great question on hyaluronic acid. Oh, what is the texture of Salt and Blue compared to Sun Love, which feels thick for me? So I would say that the Salt and Blue is thicker. I'm gonna see. This tube might not be open, so this might just be a tease. It is not. So I do not have an open one near me. The Salt and Blue is a little thicker, and the consistency is designed for the body. So the Salt and Blue is a body sunscreen. I will show you Sun Love. So Sun Love, thick is subjective, and maybe this still feels thick to you. This is what it looks like, and this is pretty much the consistency that I would expect. Sometimes I'll note with people if you're trying the uh, Sun Love for the first time and you get it and you're getting ready to use it, the if it's on a really jumpy, like bangy truck, the weight of the zinc and the weight of the oil are different, and sometimes it can separate. So if what you're using feels like almost tacky thick, it might be worth your while with your bottle to just twist the top off and gently stir it together. Because sometimes it separates getting on its little journey there. You don't have to do that every time. Typically, once you've done it, you're set, you're good. But that could be what's happening, or you could just find the texture of that to be thicker than you prefer. So What is the probiotic serum with tremella for specifically? Okay. So the probiotic serum with tremella, this one, this is usually utilized to balance what uneven or unhappy skin flora. The probiotic serum has a probiotic complex and an olive leaf ferment that we use to nourish and feed the good bacteria of the skin. So it can be used for a lot of different, angles, but usually it's something like rosacea or someone who's really breakout prone or somebody who just feels like their skin is kind of constantly in a state of dysregulation. It's either red or irritated or patchy or just feels really intensely uncomfortable a lot of the time. The ingredients in that are designed to calm and to soothe and to balance. It is very nourishing and very hydrating. The probiotic serum uses the tremella mushroom instead of hyaluronic acid. So that's where we get our plumping, that's where we get our hydration, our soothing from the tremella mushroom. So typically, I'm suggesting that if I'm working with somebody who has really sensitive skin or one of those other issues, they've got rosacea that they're working on balancing the skin out, they have a lot of breakouts that they really just need that extra kind of skin flora support, that's where I would be reaching for the probiotic serum. Karen, the Salt and Blue is thicker than Sun Love. Yes, Salt and Blue is kind of like a toothpaste. That seems fair. Yeah, it's like a toothpaste. One of the things that's unique about Salt and Blue, so Salt and Blue, this particular line, this particular brand, it is akin to Anne Marie Skincare as far as our value system. So when we were creating a body sunscreen, we weren't going to put anything in it that would create like a waterproof, or I guess water resistant, waterproof. You can't legally call anything waterproof anymore, but water resistant. We don't use any ingredients that would bind it to the skin inauthentically like a lot of brands do. But what we did include in here were some waxes and butters that kind of naturally bind it to the skin. So we don't, we don't use any language that would kind of commit to it being water resistant, but it ends up being water resistant because of the way the oils and the waxes kind of bind to the skin. But you get some of that with the consistency. The consistency is a thicker, denser consistency. And I quite like it. This is what I use for myself or for my kiddos when we go out to the pool. I'm landlocked. I'm here in Kansas City, so we don't get beach trips very often, but we also have taken it. We went to Florida last summer and took it with us. So, yeah, it is an amazingly clean sun product for those particular reasons. But yeah, that's part of the texture journey. Cool. Okay, so Radiant C. Radiant C, how long do you leave it on as a mask? So if you are using this just with water and applying it as a mask, I would typically say 20-ish minutes, 15, 20 minutes. What does the bottle say? Uh, 10, 15 minutes. Yeah. Yeah, 15, 20 minutes. Because when you have that applied with the liquid, what happens is as that liquid absorbs off, you get this really intense tightening with the clays that are on there. It feels really, I think it feels really good. It feels tight, and people tend to love that. So that's how long I would leave it on as a mask. But you can also mix it with the illuminating pearl mask, which I mentioned, before, which kind of gives you this like best of both worlds. You get some tyrosinase inhibitors with the illuminating pearl. You get the vitamin C with the ingredients in the Radiant C. That you can leave on a lot longer. The illuminating pearl is really kind of beautiful and rich and creamy, so it stays on the skin. It can stay on the skin for hours and hours. And then when you go to remove it, wet your fingers and you can get some of that polish effect from the Radiant C, the feel of the Radiant C. So those two together are really nice. And actually, insider tip, I'll cleanse the skin and then I'll do a layer of the lactic toner and then do the illuminating pearl mixed with the Radiant C as a mask, apply it and leave it on. And the duration can vary. Sometimes it's, 45 minutes. Sometimes it's a couple hours if I sit down and work. It really just depends. But when you've got the illuminating pearl on there, you can leave it on a lot longer. Grace. Oh, okay. So what's the best product for acne scars? Oh, that's a really, really good question. So for acne scarring, for the dark spots left behind by breakouts, those typically show up a little differently. They tend to be more purple than they are brown. They might be more red than they are brown. Those, a couple things are going to carry over. So definitely still protecting the skin from the sun, making sure that any breakouts that have happened, that you are preventing them from the prolonged direct sun exposure because that's going to exacerbate it. Now, things that can be really helpful, um, really all three can be particularly helpful, but particularly the tyrosinase inhibitors and particularly the exfoliants. So the vitamin C tends to be a lower priority as far as direct support with those particular forms of sun damage or dark spots that show up. Not sun damage, the dark spots that show up. It can still be helpful, and it can be helpful especially if you are still experiencing like active breakouts or there's still irritation left behind with the breakouts. But for somebody who has acne scarring, so, darkness left behind post a breakout, if you aren't still experiencing active breakouts, I would prioritize um, the wild fruit or citrus stem cell serum. Now, if you are still experiencing active breakouts, I would prioritize the probiotic serum, and I would use the booster. I would use Brighten. And the reason is because if you're still experiencing the active breakouts that are happening, you're going to get this support. I feel like it's really weird sunlight today. Can we see it? You're going to get the support from kind of quelling some of the irritation, some of the active activity with breakouts with the probiotic. And then we're still going to get some of this brightening with the booster. But for any of the, offer whatever route it's going, I would definitely include the lactic toner. So lactic toner is going to be great for the active breakouts. This can be really, really helpful in irritation, in size, in quelling some of those as they're coming to the surface, or kind of expediting the life cycle, but then in the same breath, helping to fade dark spots. So the lactic toner, we talked about whatever serums could be good, making sure that you're using your Sun Love, protecting the skin from prolonged sun exposure can be really, really helpful. What else is good for active breakouts? You might also like the activated night serum in the evening. So the retinol alternative, it's called our Bioactive A, that functions similarly to retinol and can provide this exfoliation that, just like the lactic, can be helpful for active breakouts, can be helpful for uneven tone that's left behind after breakouts. It can also be helpful for keeping the skin kind of clear. So if you've kind of come through the other side and you don't have a lot of active breakouts that are going on, you might find that you want to keep the pores nice and clear, keep breakouts from kind of finding you again. The activated night can be good for that. Or, and then I promise I'll stop dancing all over. The Revitalize, this is one of the boosters. It is the concentrated form of the retinol alternative. You could mix this into something like one of the other serums. So let's say you went the route of doing the probiotic, you could mix it with a couple drops of the Revitalize. It wouldn't be quite as soothing as it normally is, but you certainly can use this one with it, but you could also use it with the citrus stem cell. You could also use it with the wild fruit, any one of those. So, great question. Oh, when does the 30% off code expire? Friday. Thank you. I'll put that in here. And I'll include the code again for those who maybe hadn't hopped on yet. This expires midnight PST Friday. So you've got a good couple days to use that there, I think Pacific Friday, and then it shuts off. We are at time. I want to pop in here because so many folks have been having kind of, I guess, more advanced questions or questions that might be more supported in a one-on-one conversation, that I do host one-on-one consultations. And for my group that is joined today, I want to invite you in with a pretty significant discount. So if you're like, I'm not really sure, I'm still kind of not really figuring out what is good for me or for my skin. We have these group consultations, and for you guys, I'm going to offer 80% off. I gotta find the code for it though. Hold on. Yeah, 80% off with this code here. So you can click that link. It'll take you to the page where you can get that one-on-one consultation, and then 80% off obviously saves you a ton. And so if you're kind of finding that you're still not sure, or there are ways that I really could offer some direct support, or you've got skin that's all over the place, and nothing seems to really kind of fit exactly what your skin needs, this could be something that's a good fit. So no pressure as always, but I do love hanging out with you guys one-on-one. So if that feels good, you've got that coupon. And that coupon, I don't know when that coupon shuts off, but I'm going to assume it's around Friday also. So um, I'm going to go ahead and go forward with that. So any final questions while we're wrapping it up here? Give it a moment. Okay. All right, not seeing anything else pop in. So we're going to close this one out. I'm excited to get into more next week. Thank you so much for joining. I'm so excited to be talking about this stuff. And as always, so grateful for my time with you guys. So thank you, everybody. We'll see you on the next one.